Hi everyone, welcome to this World Childless Week webinar on the day that's dedicated to the pets in our lives. So this evening we're going to be talking about the rescue pets that we each have, and I know I can speak for Ruth and Joe on this as well as myself in saying that we don't see them as pets, we see them as our family. So we're going to discuss the impacts they've had on our lives and our childless journeys. And we both, all of us, sorry, believe that we didn't rescue them and they rescued us. So we'd love to hear about your pets. So please put anything in the chat, and even better, post us some pictures. It'd be lovely to see them. So before we introduce ourselves, I just wanted to say some facts and figures that I saw when I was preparing for this webinar. So I follow some animal shelters on social media, and I keep seeing that they're full and they're asking for more food because they're running out. So I just wanted to see the numbers of animals that we're talking about. So the figures I found in the UK is the RSPCA estimate that there are over 100,000 incidents of abandoned or stray animals a year, which is actually an increase of 15% from previous years. So I think that's a really huge increase. Australia have a figure of 87,000 homeless dogs and cats, and their numbers actually decreasing. So that's great news. But the US have 3.2 million dogs that need rehoming and approximately 3.3 million cats that are homeless. So I wanted to know really why so many of them were homeless. So there is actually been an increase in puppy farming. People aren't neutering their animals as much, so that's leading to overpopulation. And people are selling them in pet shops and on the internet. So that's producing more want for animals. The COVID pandemic also played quite a part in animals being put up for readoption. So people wanted some company during COVID, during the lockdowns. They were, if they got a dog, they were able to go out for walks legally. Obviously, then when they've gone back to work and things have started opening up again, lots of people have found that they can't take on that animal and that responsibility anymore. So sadly, they've gone up for adoption. But we're not here tonight to talk about politics and laws of rehoming animals. We just want to share with you our pets and what they mean to us. So we'll just go around and introduce ourselves. So I'm Elaine and I'm from Kent in the UK. So anyone that knows cats know we don't own cats, they own us. So I'm owned by a rescue cat called Oscar. And my job is a nurse, and I go to work to keep Oscar in the life that he's become accustomed to. So I am single and I'm childless, not by choice. And you can see our animals on our backgrounds. So Otis is at the top for me, Oscar is in the middle, and I've got a picture of both of them in at the bottom there. So just to say how they came into my life, so about just over 6 years ago, unfortunately, my mum died, and my dad had previously passed away as well. So I'd spent the last few years being a carer for my mum. So when she died, my world just fell apart. I had this sudden realization. I'm an only child, and I just realized that actually I didn't have anyone left in the world. I was on my own, and I needed to find a new life for myself, but I just didn't even know where to start. So my mum was cared for by the local hospice, and I was allocated a social worker to look after me. And she came round to my house one day after mum had died, and she saw a photo of my previous two rescue cats that had died. And she just suggested that maybe I'd want to get another couple. And I was not even able to think of this at this point. I was so bereft. But the little seed had been sown, and I was just having a little quick look on social media rescue sites, and it was actually a friend that found Otis and Oscar and pointed them out to me. And then within about 2 weeks, I had a home check. I'd been to meet them and I brought them home. Very different to how they are now. That I decided they got basics of everything. I was doing them a favour by giving them a home. So cheap food, couple of toys, that's all they needed. But, you know, within minutes of coming in the house, Oscar had jumped up on the sofa and curled up and gone to sleep. And Otis was rolling over at my feet. So they had my heart within minutes. So I went out the next day and upgraded the food and upgraded the toys, and they get whatever I can give them now. And some days they eat better than I do. Otis and Oscar were really lucky because they had a good life before they came to me, although they were rescues. Their previous owner's circumstance changed and they very reluctantly gave up the boys with a lot of heartache. But the rescue home were able to put us in touch with each other, and we're still in touch now. So it's really nice that they can see that they made the right decision, and giving them up for adoption changed my life. I had 2 cats previous to Oscar and Otis, and they had a very different start in life. So they were both dumped in a cardboard box on the streets of London. So Otis and Oscar were very lucky. About 18 months ago, sadly, Otis passed away. He was only 8 years old, but he had a very short illness and sadly died. But I was able to be with him till the end. I was completely distraught, and I miss him every day. But not long after he died, I saw a quote by Paul O'Grady. So in the UK, Paul was a TV producer. He presented on TV and was a comedian, and he was known for rescuing lots and lots of animals. And he said that owning a pet will inevitably end in heartache, but you don't think about the hangover when you're at the party. And I just thought that summed up beautifully how it was with Otis. I'm absolutely broken, but I learned so much from him, you know, about life, death, grief, and about myself. And I'm just so grateful to him. And I was so lucky to have him. So if you're comfortable, I wonder if Jo and Ruth, you'd be happy just to share who you are and how your pets came into your life.
Thank you, Elaine. Yes, I'm Jo. I live in Northern England in Cumbria, although I'm originally from right down in the southwest of England. And I live just on the edge of the Lake District, which is this beautiful picture behind me. I don't quite live in that, but I live near that. And the beautiful fluffy thing to me, it's my left. I'm not sure which way the picture will come out, is Millie Dog. And Millie Dog came into my life right at the end of 2019. So I guess my journey to being here is that I had unexplained infertility and miscarriage and relationship breakdown and a whole variety of life circumstances that meant that I didn't have children. And I was actually looking at fostering and adopting, and there were 2 things that kept me from being able to apply formally. And one was a lack of a local support network, because where I was living, I didn't know anybody. I'd moved there after having been single, and I didn't know anybody, basically. So there was nobody to my local support network. My family were all down south, my friends were further away. And then the other thing was that my working life took me away from home a lot. So I'm a writer and a book coach now, but at the time I was a walking tour leader, which I still do some of. So most of my work was always away. So those 2 things meant that adopting and fostering children, not having financial stability, not being at home, and not having a support network meant that really I wasn't a very good candidate, even though I had oodles and oodles of love. And I even had posters on the wall to try and kind of bring in that universal energy. But what I didn't know is that the universe works in mysterious. Well, I did know actually the universe works in mysterious ways, but at the time, it's that sense of you don't always get what you think you want, but the universe gives you what you need. So into that energy came a neighbour who said she suddenly had this dog living with her temporarily over Christmas in 2019. And the neighbour had a small, very young puppy and a 4-year-old child, and she was solo, so didn't have a partner or anybody living with her. And I'd gone round just simply to offer to walk the puppy. And previous life, I've been bitten by dogs and all sorts of things. So getting a dog was definitely not on my agenda. Went round to help the neighbour out and basically walked in. And there was this calm house, which is it was never normally calm. It was normally really chaotic. And I sat down on the sofa, and this dog kind of was there, and she was then called Lily, and she was smelly and she was grimy, and she just put her chin on my knee, and straight away, like, I was like, oh wow, and asked, what was going to happen to this dog, that somehow the dog adoption had fallen through. I never did know the details of that, but she'd come over from Romania. And I got told that she was going to have to find a different dog adoption. And first of all, my head thought, oh, my dad might be looking for a dog, but he was like mid to late 70s, living down in the south of England. And then straight away, my heart said, no, she's yours and you're hers. So then heart and head had this kind of disagreement for about a week over Christmas and New Year, where heart basically won outright. And that's kind of how Millie came into my life. So we officially adopted each other in January 2020. And it wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy. Like, I was still very much on my journey to kind of dealing with the grief of all the infertility things and miscarriage and childlessness that I've been through. But into that mix came this wonderful being, and eventually we managed to the neighbour and I managed to give her a bath, and she became this fluffy, wonderful thing. So that's how. I do actually have a picture, if I can do it, of her before. So this is her now. This is her in the Lake District. Let me see if I can show a different picture of her so people can see her. So she was already in the rescue centre by now. I was going to go that way. Which way? That way. So that's Millie. I'm not sure if you can see that. That was her before. So you can tell it's still Millie, but the tail's down. She's probably a bit too padded now, but then maybe a little bit skinny. And it's just so not happy, no life in her eyes, and just to think that now she is my little fur ball, and I'll bring her back. So that is her. That's her now, and that's me and Millie.
Oh, she looks so different. Thanks, Jo. Ruth, are you okay to share with us?
Yeah. So I'm Ruth. I'm from northern town called Buxton. My fur baby is called Maggie Moo Oswin Barnes. I do think everyone has like a long-winded name for the pets, really, or probably like little cheeky names and stuff. So she came into our life, really. I've always wanted a dog, always, but I wasn't expecting us to have a dog. So I was at work one day, and my friend went, oh, you'll have a dog, won't you, Ruth? I know a family and they're needing rid of a dog. I was like, what? Okay, I'll try. We'll trial her for a weekend. And we'd been told she'd come from a loving family, but we were told she had all these sort of like issues. So chewing up houses, chewing up wires, sofa, all sorts of stuff. So we were anticipating this absolute nutter, like complete. So we were like, oh my God, what? And I was telling my partner, he's my husband now, but my partner. So it's just going to be for the weekend. It's going to be for the weekend. That's it, and we'll see how we go. Because I was like, I've always wanted a dog, so it gives me a little see what it's like. So she came jumping, like bounding into our house, like a really, really fat dog, hence the moo, because she was just fat, and jumped on the sofa and went to sleep. And I was like, oh, she's just mint. And she would just lay sleeping next to me. And then the weekend passed, we got to the Sunday, and I'd said to my partner, well, she's not had any behaviours yet, has she? So shall we message them and say we'll see what she goes like till next week, because we've got to see what these behaviours are before we say yes or no. So we were like, okay. So we messaged. I was like, hi, we're just gonna have her for just see until next Sunday, you know, just see what her behaviour is like. They're like, yeah, okay. And so I was just asking, when do you know, a bit of information. Another week's passed, no behaviours other than just the odd little woof and stuff. And so then we got another. So I was like, well, let's do another 2 weeks and then see. And another 2 weeks passed and still no behaviours. So we got to the point, me and my partner, and we both said, we're not giving her back, are we? So we sent a message to the people going, yeah, Maggie's ours now, and we're keeping her. And we've never looked back at all. And she's made like a house. She completed our family really, and that's why we have Barnes in it, because that's my partner's second name, and we just feel like she completed us with her big mushy ways. Like I can't describe what, like, even just in that month she just won me. She was my dog, like she followed me everywhere, and I was like, yeah, I didn't need to do anything. But yeah, and that's her. If you look at her, like a big mushy head and face. Yeah, that's really it, how she came in, and it was more us deciding we weren't giving her back. And just say we've had none of these behaviours, and we've had her now for 4 years, and none of it really. No chewing or anything, just the odd woof and just a bit scared of other people, but not one like
She was meant to be
chewing
with
at the
you.
house. Yeah, she was definitely. The moment she jumped on the sofa, I'm not gonna lie, I thought, yeah, I'm not giving her back, but I just had to win the partner over.
Oh, thank you, Ruth. There's lots of lovely comments in the chat about them both. So I know this is quite controversial, but we spoke previously, Ger and I understand Millie was unfortunately on a kill list in Romania. And I actually didn't know that they existed in the UK, but they do. I had to look up some figures, and I'm not going to go down that path, but is there anything you want to say about that, Jay?
No, I mean, it was one of those things with Millie. I didn't know they existed in England or UK until really recently, and I was gobsmacked, to be honest. And I'd not really heard of it abroad because I hadn't really been looking for a dog, so didn't know anything about it. But when I was told she'd been on a kill list, it was like just the thought of the person, or the human, not human, but the dog that she now is. I can't comprehend that at some point her name, whatever she was, her number, whatever she would have been, she was on this list, and I can't comprehend it. But yeah, that's all I have to say on it, really. And it's incredibly sad. And I don't think there's any easy answers to it, because the reason Millie was on a kill list was because in Romania, this is my understanding of it, that the kind of county pound almost are contracted by the state, for want of a better word, to take stray dogs off the streets. And the only way they can do that is if the pounds are full, then they have to make more room in the pounds, and the dogs that haven't been able to move on or found their homes, or whatever happens to dogs in the county pounds in Romania in general, if they haven't found anywhere else to go, then they move up and up the list, I guess, until eventually it's their name or their number. So the charity that I then realised Millie had come through, because at the time I didn't know she'd come through a charity or anything like that, they then were working with the local organisations out there to take dogs that were on kill lists and take them to an interim safe shelter in Romania. And then the charity then worked with people in the UK to bring dogs over to here, or to fund money to keep them safe out there. But I know you're going to tell us the statistics, and it's appalling, the number of dogs.
Yeah, it's not good. I think it's something we probably just need to move on. And thank goodness Millie's name wasn't on that list. So my next question to you guys is how Millie and Maggie have helped you through your childlessness journey. So for me, when I got Otis and Oscar, I didn't know I was going to be childless. I still had this hope that one day I'd be a mum. But about 3 years ago, I was told I needed a hysterectomy. So I had to go ahead and have that done. And afterwards, I recovered really well. I think it was sort of putting it to the back of my mind, and I was out exercising and doing everything I could just to not think about it. But a few months afterwards, I can only describe is that I had a breakdown. I was an anxious, blubbing mess. I couldn't function. I wasn't eating. I wasn't showering. I was shutting myself away for days on end, so not talking to people. Sorry if you hear that noise, that's Oscar just coming in through the cat flap. So I was as about as low as I could get, and I have to be honest that I actually felt so low that I had times when I thought I didn't want to be here anymore. But it was strange. Every time I thought like that, one of them would just appear from nowhere, and they just snuggle up with me. They do something funny or lay on my chest, so I literally couldn't move off of the sofa, and it was as if they knew what I was thinking. It's very odd, and I just look at their faces, and I knew I couldn't go anywhere. They needed me, and I couldn't leave them. So I just resigned myself to the fact that even if I just made it to the kitchen to feed them, that I had to get out of bed for that day, and it gave me some structure and it gave me a purpose. I don't know about you guys, but I feel that I've got so much love inside of me that I wanted to give to my children, and I just didn't know where to channel that love. And I'm able to do that to Otis and Oscar. I'm able to nurture them, look after them, feed them, just provide for them, and that means everything to me. They give me absolute pure love, and I feel really proud to have given them a safe and secure home. I do believe they were sent to me, actually, right cats at the right time. So things always work out and things happen for a reason. I'm just sad that my mum and dad didn't get to meet them, because they would have absolutely adored them. So if you're happy to share your experience of your dogs with your childlessness journey. Ruth?
Yeah, mine's quite, yeah, what you said really resonated with them coming in, being part of that life and the love and stuff, really. I do feel like I always felt like I dealt with like my childlessness, because it was when I was in my 20s. So I thought, I'm all right with this. I've dealt with it. It's okay. And then Maggie came into my life, and I realised I was missing something, and I was missing, like you said, being able to give love to someone. I have my partner, but it's actually someone else, really, and just feeling that connection. And that's what she massively does, is just like, it sounds crazy because I have to work away from home, like a night a week, and so I come through the door, and just to have, someone, which is to me, it's not something, it's someone. Do you know what I mean? To come through your door when I come through my door, and to see that wagging tail and the pure joy she has when she sees me come through the door. I could be having the worst day, because we all have our bad days, and I'm not going to lie, I mask it to people, but I have really bad days. But she brings so much joy into those bad days, and I can just look at her, and she just makes me laugh when she does silly things. Like the other week, I was having the worst week ever, and then we took her to the vets, and the vets were going, oh, she's overweight, and this a few months. I was like, I don't know how we're walking her. And then we found, and I was having an awful week, and we went to the food bag, and we found she'd just been helping herself. She's been having an all-you-can-eat Maggie buffet for at least probably 4 years since we've had her, because the bags are massive. So no wonder that little fatty wasn't losing weight. Do you know what I mean? But I was having the worst week, and then we couldn't help but just have pure laughter at that. She just brings so much joy in just the little things she does, and she's enhanced everything about our house, even our relationship, because she's just brought so much joy into it. She's just mega. That's all I can say. She's absolutely brilliant, and she's made the house a home. Do you know what I mean? There's mess everywhere because you've got dog toys thrown around, which I would have had if I had children. I'd be picking up after children. So that's what I'm doing. I'm picking up after my child, picking up her toys, feeding her. And just like when I'm having a really bad day, I've got to go out and walk her. And those walks are the absolute best times of my day, are just spending time with her. And she's helped my journey massively. And she saved me more than I saved her, for definite, just by being a little fat dog. She has lost weight now, though, I promise.
That made me laugh about her helping herself to her biscuits, because Oscar's the only cat I know that can open a claw-proof tub of Dreamies. So he just helps himself if you leave the tub out. So you can't leave anything around. He's cheeky. Joe?
Yeah, thank you. That is very funny, Ruth. So Millie's actually the opposite to that. I'm always amazed. I can leave her bag of biscuits out, accidentally open, but it's not in her bowl or it's not scattered on the floor, and she won't touch it. It's incredible. So basically, the way that Millie changed my life is she allowed me to become a mum. It's just as simple as that. So when she came into my life, I still had hope in my heart, I guess, that I was going to become a mum somehow at some point through adoption, fostering, fertility. And she's bridged that transition where now biologically, really, it's just not going to happen, and a whole load of life circumstances. So she has given me the gift of being able to just throw that mother love, throw that energy into her, because she needed it, and she's allowed me to care for her, to be her number one person who makes decisions for her, all those things that we all would have had we have been parents of children. We would have made their decisions, we would have been doing these things for our children, but we haven't had that opportunity. Like I see friends with their children, and I know that parenthood isn't easy. Absolutely, it's not easy. But Millie has allowed me to, in some ways you might say play act that role, but it's been a needed role, because she needed a mum, and I needed someone to give mother love to. So that is kind of the main way she's changed my life, and all the practical ways that you were saying, Ruth. So my house was really quiet before. It would just be me. Now there's more people in my life, but at the time it was just me in the house, and something would move. Like, you'd be like, wow, who's moved that? And it'd be Millie that's moved it. And it's like, wow, somebody's living and breathing, and things like watching her develop. So for years she wouldn't. So Millie and I basically had each other in 2020, end 2019, and she wouldn't come upstairs for ages. She was just scared to come upstairs. And then eventually, a couple of years into it, she would come upstairs. And so now she'll she'll sometimes cozy up in her bed, sometimes she'll be on my bed. And it is just like, I imagine, as if it would be, a parent with a child, but also the different developmental stages. So to begin with, my life was devoted to making sure that she was comfortable and happy and taken care of, like you would be if you were a new mum, like, with a baby or with a new toddler, if you'd adopted or whatever. And then gradually, as life's gone on, different things have come into play. So she's become happier to go with other people, it's given me my freedom back. Lockdown stopped happening, so our world opened up. And it definitely feels as if it's that transitionary things that I would have gone through as a parent to a human. I feel like I've gone through that as a parent to a fluffy one instead. And I know she's not a human child, but she's an amazing fluffy child, and she's given me the greatest gift to be her mum, really.
Thank you. So a few weeks ago, I heard an interview with Claire Horton, and I'd not heard about her, but she used to be the CEO of Battersea. So she was brought in to basically turn Battersea around and make it a success, which she obviously has done. And she was talking about rehoming of animals, and the reasons why people have to give up pets for adoption. And it can be just a change of circumstance for an owner, that they can't keep them in a new house, or that they're unwell, or that they pass away sometimes. The current climate, with cost of living crisis, vets bills are expensive, insurance, and people just can't afford to keep them. She did say that there's been an increase in puppy farming as well. So people were buying puppies online only to find that they've been taken away from their parents too soon. And then they're not socialized. So they're causing lots of behavioural problems that people don't know how to deal with. And many of them are quite unwell as well because of the way they've been bred. She said that 10% of people, once they've rehomed an animal from Battersea, do return them afterwards. But generally, they're their most genuine reasons for returning them. But I was so upset to hear she said that one lady had returned a dog because when she got it home, it didn't match the colour of her sofa. And it's rescuing an animal is not about the breed or the colour. It's about them being a rescue. Being able to give them another chance, to live their best life. So I know with cats, black cats are often overlooked, and they've got lots of associations with them. So some people think they're unlucky, they're connected with witches. But Otis was black, and that's what drew me to him. I wanted to give a home to a cat that probably wouldn't be so easily rehomed. And I have to say, he gave me the most positive opinion of black cats because he was the most loving one that I've ever known. So I know there are lots of thoughts that rescue pets are damaged and broken. And yes, some men have had a tough time, and they've suffered cruelty and abuse in the past at the hands of humans. But usually they do make happy and trusting pets, which we can all vouch for. And I think sometimes you can actually see in their face they're just grateful to us for us, make us feel we matter and we're seen. I mean, personally, I've had no issues with rescue pets that I've had. Oscar and Otis are absolutely fine, no problems. My previous two cats, Jasper and Leo, now they were dumped in a box on the streets of London. There was no information about them whatsoever, and they were absolutely fine. Their only problem was they did have a fear of boxes, and I could never get them over that. My mum and dad came round one day, and they brought something round to the house. And anyone that knows cats know that they just love boxes. And they rang me at work and said, oh, we've left the box down for the cats. And I got home to two shaking wrecks. So, you know, I just had to be careful that I didn't leave a cardboard box around, but you know, that's a small price to pay, isn't it? It was a bit tricky getting to the vets because obviously I have to put them in a cat carrier. But generally they were absolutely fine. I've been following, and I know there's some people on the call tonight that are also following Sophie from Romania. So she's on Instagram, she's on X, and she is the Romanian rescue of Rory Ketland-Jones, who was a presenter with the BBC here in the UK. And there's pictures of Sophie coming over, bundled up in a blanket and being passed to him in the middle of the night. And she didn't come out from behind the sofa for weeks, months. She didn't know how to play. They had to bring in a pet behaviourist to, you know, help her overcome her anxiety. And she's still extremely anxious, but she's my little treat every day that I can log on, and I can be having a terrible day. I think, oh, I'll just go and see what Sophie's up to today. And it's nice to see her come out from behind the sofa. She's starting to play. She's been out for her first walks. That was quite a feat for them to get her out of the house. And she's actually just had her first holiday as well. So that's been just amazing to watch. So I just wonder if I could ask you, what led you to getting a rescue rather than buying your pets? Ruth?
I think I've always been passionate about rescue anyway. I think it's something that's always been part of me. So I think I always knew if I was going to get a dog, it would be a rescue, just because I just think everyone wants a family, and that's animals included. Do you know what I mean? Like every dog, every cat, every bunny rabbit. Do you know what I mean? Like they all just want to be loved. They just yearn for it. Like if you can look into like a dog's eyes and they love you, if they're so grateful for you. Like if you've got a dog or a cat, just look into their eyes and they'll look at you because they love you. And that's all they want is just love. And I just think to rescue an animal, I think is the best thing anyone can do, because I think it adds so much to your life, because you're giving someone, because I call them someone, a chance that they just don't think they sometimes they could be in a kennel for, you know, you read about some that have been in kennels for like 8 years, you know, rescue, because that dog, that cat, that animal could be the most happiest it's ever been just by going into your home and being loved by you and your family. You know, do you know what I mean? It's just, that's all they need, I think. And I just think rescue, because, and you're not adding to all this stuff that's going on, the puppy farming, the illegal trading of animals and stuff. The more people rescue, the more that's being stopped as well, because people, yeah, you give, I just think rescuing adds so much to you, but also to the pet. And there's so many animals out there that need loving homes that, you know, I just think, yeah, and they just love you. I do think rescue animals love so much more because they know that they've got you. Do you know what I mean? That's
Absolutely,
where I am.
yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ruth. Jo?
So because I never had to make that choice, so Millie came into my life and I firmly believe, and my close friends and family, I think, would agree, that the universe knew what it was doing, and she came into my life for a reason. So if I was ever in the weather place, or I was actively going out to find a fluffy four-legged one again, yes, absolutely, I would look for a rescue pet. There's an interesting question actually asking about the different, it's I can't remember the exact question, but it's to do with rescue pets or having a pet that's been breeded. And I honestly don't know. I don't know much about the differences because Millie landed in my life. But I do believe that if an animal like a child is meant to be in your life, they will come through somehow. And I think that, so if people are discounting rescue because you might feel that there's a lot of issues attached to that, yes, absolutely there can be. But there also, as Ruth said, can be so much love and so much reward in a really meaningful way from a rescue pet. So I never actually had to make that choice. So I don't know what I would have chosen, but I do believe that they come through however they're going to come through for us, like as if they were a child.
I know we've been thinking as well about other ways that they've fulfilled our lives. So I know for a dog, you can take your dog for a walk. But I found not long after I had the boys that if I went out into the road to see a neighbour or went to knock on a neighbour's door, I'd turn around and they were behind me. So I live in a quiet road, a quiet little cul-de-sac. So I started just walking around with them, and they come out and have a walk with me in the evenings when it's, I know it's going to be really quiet, there's not a lot of traffic. So I got out, and especially during COVID, take the cats for a walk, and get a chance to speak to the neighbours. So it's lovely. I was thinking as well that I often get quite a lot of anxiety when people come into my home, my safe space. That's quite new for me, that I was never like that. But I can use now Oscar as sort of a conversation. He's a conversation icebreaker, and I can talk through him, if that makes sense. It's just, he's my little wingman, and he helps me through those situations. But I talk to him all the time. Whatever I'm doing, I'll tell him what I'm doing. When I'm going out, I tell him how long I'm going to be. And then, yes, I drive out of the drive this afternoon, and he's sitting in the garden watching me go. And yeah, I wave to him. How sad is that? I don't know what my neighbours think, but he's my boy, and I'm not harming anyone. So I could talk to him as well. I can tell him anything. If I come home and I've had a bad day, or I've got something on my mind, I can tell Oscar. He's not going to tell anybody. I can tell him my innermost thoughts and feelings, and he's always confidential. What really I found as well that surprised me was the first night I got Otis and Oscar. I'd felt so alone for so long. And having lost my mum died in my house, and I didn't feel very safe. But they jumped on the bed with me, and I can't believe how long a cat can make themselves, because they can take up most of a bed, believe me. So I often hang on the side of the bed. So he's got two double beds that he can sleep in, but no, he has to sleep on my side. But hey, that's cats, isn't it? Was there any other ways you think they've fulfilled your lives? Joe?
Oh, sorry. Do you want to go, Joe? Sorry.
Go on, Ruth.
So I totally agree. I always wave at Maggie. When I'm coming home. She like sort of knows around about 10 in the morning when I've been at work. She knows that that's the time, and she's surveying the land. She stands on a windowsill and like is watching for me. Like, so I always wave like that. I also, when I phone up, just to when I'm at work and stuff, I phone up and I speak for like 2 seconds to my partner, and I always go, "How's Maggie?" I don't even ask how he is. And everything. She really got me into exercise as well. So like obviously you do a lot of walking, but I trained her to run. So we started running with her and stuff. So like got like run 5K with her now and stuff. So she's really helped with that. And she's also like increased, because as much as I seem it, a lot of people think I'm quite a people person. I'm really not. Like, I'd much rather not talk to people, go through, go do what I'm doing. But with a dog, it's just, it opens up something, and you end up talking to complete strangers about their dog. So you end up knowing the dog's name. You know the dog's name over the other person who you're walking. So she added to that. And I also, she struggled a lot, Maggie did, with she struggled in group situations and stuff. So I started training with dog training. So I'm doing like dog training school now to be a dog trainer. But I needed a dog walker, and I couldn't find anyone in my area who did one-to-one dog walks. And so through her, I started up my own sort of dog walking. Do you know what I mean? And I just think through her, she's opened up so many doors, more than I would. It was a question that I really had to ponder on to realize how much she'd actually done. Like, just through having a dog, like I've met new people, I made new friends, exercise. I actually go out in all weathers instead of choosing to sit and watch the TV. Do you know what I mean? And I even got on a podcast as well, with the Jack D and another comedian, to talk about my love of my dog. I had to sing a song as well, the song that I sing to my dog. Won't do that on this because it'll pierce your ears. But yeah, it's done so much for me, and I just think, yeah, laughter as well. I just laugh all the time when I'm around her because she's just so mushy. That's what I call like my mushy face girl. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I talk to Millie the whole time. Like she's changed my world, as you said, Ruth, so much for the better. And when she first came into my life, I would literally look at her on the floor, because I didn't have a dog bed. I just had this like little piece of carpet, and I would look at her sprawled out, like, you know, just completely at peace with the world. And I'd be like, how on earth did this happen? How on earth did my life go from, you know, from what it had been to suddenly having this chaotic furry toddler, and everything had to change? And I think it just gave me that. She still does. She gives me that experience of being a family. And I'm really lucky. My dad is still around. My mum isn't. She went many years ago. But my dad's around. My sister's around. You know, so that's granddad's. And Millie goes down to granddad's for her hollybobs. You know, when I'm working away, I'm often guiding in the hills. This view actually is one of the views I get to see when I'm guiding in the hills, which is amazing. And Millie can come with me sometimes, but she can't come with me when I'm working. So she goes to her granddad's, you know, and it's granddad, and he'll do these little diaries, and he'll have these little, you know, notes about what she's been doing in her voice, you know, and it just, everything just adds. She adds to everybody I know. She adds to their life in some way. You know, she makes my sister an auntie, and I'm an auntie to my sister's guinea pigs. You know, it's kind of that, it spreads out. And the more you're around people that get it, the more I think you can be at ease with being that fur parent, or not the fur parent, being the parent to the fur child, or to the animal in whatever way. And I think it just expands and expands, and that ripple effect, I think, is huge. And you were saying, Ruth, when you walk around and you see people, I love the idea, Elaine, of you having the cats follow you. You know, Millie's got her friends. Millie's got friends that that I've met, and we know the dog's name, and we do know the human names, but the dog is the first name that you know, and you don't always know the human's name. And it's just, you know, where she's been away for a while, and you come back, and she always knows the places she wants to go, and she's definitely got a little mind of her own. So it isn't plain sailing. But that would be the same with the child. They know their mind. So yeah.
Just saying about Oscar walking up the road with me. I can actually see one of my neighbours is on here tonight and has put in the chat that it's a bit of a joke between us that she's got a dog who sits on the back of the sofa and looks out the window up the road. And I've watched Oscar the other day. He doesn't just walk past the house, he walks down their drive just to wind the dog up and back out again. They love him anyway. So there is actually a couple of questions in the chat. So somebody said that due to work reasons, that her and her husband decided in the past to get a breeded dog, which is a Manchester Terrier. Does anyone else have or had a breeded dog and got hurtful comments like you should have got a dog from a shelter? We also got the advice to adopt two as a solution for children. They both really hurt. Because I've lost children from stillbirths and miscarriages, so we really wanted a dog that fit completely into our lives and we would know the dog's traits. Oh, that's so sad. That sort of follows on to the next question that's there as well. Has anyone experienced any judgmental comments about being childless and being like the cat lady or the dog lady? I've had comments about, oh, you're the cat lady. Yeah, I love cats, don't get me wrong, he's all I've got, he's my world. But everyone just thinks I've got nothing else, just the cats. And I did get given a heart stone that's got the crazy cat lady on it, and I've been given a mug with that as well. And I guess people just, they don't see maybe or feel what we feel. But yeah, I think when you're in that situation, it's quite difficult to digest, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be especially hard 'cause I think sometimes some people don't realise how hurtful they're being. Because some people do say, oh, you do too much for your dog, or it's just one of the things that I really hate, and you probably all have had it. It's just a dog, it's just a cat, it's just this, and it's not. They're not just there. They're not just that. And I totally yeah, I've had the comments and stuff, and or why, you know, some people don't know my story and go, oh, well, why don't you just go and have a child? You know, and I just think she's my girl, and I love her. And I just think, you know, the judgmental comments, you know, when people said about the other one with the breeded dog, you've given a dog a loving home, you know. So I totally, I'm all for rescues, but I'm all for anyone who can give a dog a loving home and love that dog unconditionally, and that's what you do. So you do you know, and ignore what anyone says because you're all awesome and you're all lovely.
100%.
No.
Joe?
So I can't say anything else to top that, Ruth, really. I mean, I had comments. I mean, not to my face, not that I know of, probably behind my back. I don't know. I don't care. I really don't care. I mean, the difference that Millie has made to me and all my close friends and family and the ones that care about me, they all see the difference, and they all know that she rescued me even more than I rescued her. So if people, and I'm very sorry if people have experienced negative comments, I think the more we speak out, the more we probably open ourselves up to those comments. Even like doing this webinar, maybe we get more of those kind of comments. I don't know. I've never, I don't know, but we can only just be us. And as you said, Ruth, you do you. And if there is a fluffy one or a scaly one or a feathered one to come into your life, then they'll be there, and you can be their parent. You know, you can love that person. You know, you can be their parent. Absolutely. There's nothing to say you can't.
So if anyone was thinking of getting a rescue pet, would you have any advice for them?
I'll take this one, mate, if that's okay. So my advice, I've only had the experience of Millie. I haven't had other experiences. As a kid, we did have dogs that I'm fairly sure came into my life through a rescue, but they weren't I wasn't their main care or anything. My advice, if a rescue dog or any dog comes into your life or pet, is to have oodles and oodles of patience and to meet that, for me, dog where they're at, because Millie, when she came into my life, needed to know that I could be trusted. And she would do things like she would just sit down. She would sit down on a walk and not move. She still does that, but I would just sit down with her and expect to be triggered. So she would do things, and oh my God, the amount of tears and trauma that flowed out of me in the first few months, year or so of having her was awful in many ways. So my advice is to expect that you might have hard work, but you might not. Like Ruth didn't have the problems with her dog, whereas Millie she did throw up loads of different problems. And they were varied and mad, and they threw up loads of emotions in me. So I would say have patience, have oodles of love, and have time, and just meet your pet where they're at. And they're an individual. You know, no dog, no cat, no bird, no snake are the same, I guess. So yeah, so give them time and patience would be my advice.
Yeah, definitely. As sort of would go with that as well. It's patience, time, have lots of love, understanding, and I just think also just have like a dog bed or beds and just be you'll have like the best time. I just think just every day is different. No day's the same. And I just think yeah, just have fun and just accept that mad, furry, scaly, feathered, whatever does you, pet, and just have the best time, because that's what they want for you as well, really. Yeah.
Someone's just put in the chat, patience, a good trainer, and positive training. And they also mentioned the Cinnamon Trust. So if anyone would like a dog but is unable to give a home to a dog, they absolutely welcome volunteer dog walkers, because there's lots of people out there that aren't well enough to have to walk their dog, but they need that companionship. So it's, you know, let them keep their dogs, but just let someone walk them. So that's always an opportunity for someone if they're interested. You know, I echo everything you've all said. I mean, yes, sometimes there's a bit of a mess, not a lot. Oscar does bring me the odd mouse or frog. Last year he bought me a dead ferret. It's great. But you know, without him, I'd come home to an empty, lifeless house. My neighbours think he knows the time, because they say that about 10-15 minutes before I'm due home from work in the evening, he comes out and he sits on the driveway and waits for me. So I drive on, open the door, and often he just hops in the car, and it's just nice to get that welcome home. It's just so precious. And you know, the companionship and loyalty you get back from them, it really doesn't know any bounds, does it? They're the best decision I've ever made. I'll continue to rescue animals. My plans are to retire and move to Devon. And I see myself having a couple of rescue dogs that I can take to the beach, cross the moors, let them live their best life. But I'd also like to have a couple of elderly cats from a shelter so that they don't spend their last days, weeks, months, however long it be in a shelter, so that they can have a nice, warm, comfortable bed and be looked after. They just deserve to be loved, really, don't they? But to finish tonight, it's been an honour for me to have rescue animals in my house, and I'll be forever grateful to Otis and Oscar for everything they've brought to me. It's also been an absolute honour to present this webinar, and I'd really like to thank Steph for giving us the opportunity. And a massive thank you to you, Jo and Ruth. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I didn't know either of you before this webinar, but I feel I've made two great friends, and I'm really grateful for that. Thank you to Millie and Maggie as well. I've loved it tonight, and I hope everyone that has tuned in has enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for letting us share our furry family friends with you. Thanks a lot. Take care. Good night.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.